Hello and welcome to Energy Stew. This is Peter Roth, your host, and today we're going to be talking about sexuality. And we have a guest who, I'm not sure he's on the line yet, is Charles Muir, who's well known in the sex industry. I don't mean the X-rated necessarily, sex industry. He's a teacher, leads workshops, and it's the higher end of sexuality. We're going to find out some perhaps new ideas about sex and our sexuality, and maybe help our relationships in some way, or help create new relationships in some way, or just help ourselves in ways that we haven't imagined. So we're still dialing into him. I spoke to him a few minutes ago. He's on the phone. Charles, are you there?
I am. Is this Peter?
Yes, good. Thank you so much for being with us. So I've been just talking briefly about the nature of the show today, and that it's about sexuality. And we haven't really talked at length to understand what your contribution is. Sex has been around a long time. We're not inventing it. But perhaps there are some new ideas or opportunities that we haven't seen before. And I would like to know from you, what is it that would help? What don't we know? I mean, I'm sure it's a lot. You teach workshops in it. But what are the keys to what we probably don't understand about our sexuality?
Well, first off, we do all invent it. We aren't given a formal education on really what the opposite sex needs to establish not just their pleasure, but harmony in the relationship. And we've never studied sex as an art form to be the best we can at giving pleasure, giving nurturing, and uplifting our partner. So Tantra is a very old practice. It originates in India perhaps as much as 5,000 years ago, where it was studied as an art form. And I would say this, that sex is a biological urge, and we all figure it out, whereas sexual love is a learned art form. And some of the things that separate sex from tantric sexuality would be the use of breathing at specific points to heighten one's pleasure and one's experience of sexual ecstasy, which can become a spiritual experience. The use of one's mind, sex becomes an extended meditation where the body becomes an instrument of love, where you express that love through how you touch and how you look at a person and what you say to a person, and of course all the standard ones, how you use your lips and your sexual organs, how you move, a better understanding of positions, because different positions will definitely influence the way the energy flows and the sexual experience of the partners.
So when you teach workshops, are they theory or experiential?
They are about 60% theory, 40% experiential, and we give some very interesting homework where the students, which are about 50% couples and a gender balance of 50% singles, they have an opportunity to take what they've learned in class and practice at home. We keep everybody safe in the class. Nobody takes their clothes off. But people go away really feeling, why didn't anyone tell me this? And the truth is our parents didn't know if they even did bother to tell us anything about sex. We're left with so much confusion about sex, so much misinformation rather than real trust and real technique and real understanding. We get misinformation instead of information.
Well, it sounds to me like, my experience in my life is that youth is full of hormones and have this great desire in them, and I don't know that they have the patience to or desire to listen to their parents. Certainly when they're 9 or 10 or 11, maybe even 12, parents might want to teach their kids about the birds and the bees and that kind of thing. But once kids are really at an age where they start having sexual encounters, I think it's. I remember I didn't have the patience for my parents to talk to me at all. It was even embarrassing, and there was no room for that. And I imagine that with my own kids, I would feel the same way, that they really wouldn't want to be in that discussion. Perhaps with somebody else, most likely a peer more than an adult.
And so, where did that peer learn?
I don't know, and that's maybe it's a young adult, somebody in their mid-20s perhaps, who they can identify with more and they don't feel intimidated by. So I think
I would again say the same question: where did that young adult learn?
Well,
we have a limited amount of experience with a limited amount of partners, and again, sex, what to do is a lot different than how to be and how to raise it to a level of outstanding relationship. Our parents are our gurus, even if they don't speak to us about sex and relationship. They model it. And that's why kids don't want to listen to us. They very rarely see parents that deeply love each other and elevate each other and model a healthy form of sexuality.
Well, there's also that need in teenagers to separate, because kids are very intimate with their parents, and the parents in many ways are the sexual objects of children. They don't know that it's that, but they still are very, very physically that close to their parents. And then when they get to be teenagers, they become uncomfortable with the fact that they are so close to their parents. When they start having all these peer interactions, and it frightens them to think that they're that way with their parents too. And so that's when they make that move away. They push their parents away because it's almost repulsive for them to feel that kind of connection to parents. Therefore, I would think that they don't even want to think of their parents as having sex or as being intimate, or anything that upsets that new peer discovery that they're in.
They're surrounded by sex everywhere they look, in advertisements, in movies, and nowhere is sexuality ennobled, dignified, or psychologically whole. We're mostly given neurotic expressions of our sexuality. We're told by the church still that when we're young, if we practice sexuality as normal teenagers do, that there's still something about guilt and shame and maybe even going to hell. It's what we got as kids, and we are 21st century lovers still influenced by 19th century moralities. So how does sexuality, which is something God created, and men and women have screwed up over countless generations, how does that fit into our lives so that we can have a healthy sex life and relate to the opposite sex, where there's harmony and peace and joy in our sexual lives, rather than the battle of the sexes that still rages today? We came through the 60s where we got permission to do it, but we've never really gotten an education. Take a look at it. Our own country is still propagating that we just ignore it, that we be celibate, that we not educate it. That's not going to bring about health. What will bring about health is to get rid of the neurosis and have an understanding of this is something about energy, this is something about intimacy, This is something about passion and consciousness. And,
What?
we're talking about kids here, and I don't know if that's your audience, but adults are no different. Most adults have their experience, and we all need to take a look, is our sex life as good as the rest of our life? And with divorces raging at well over 50%, and in polls, a person's sex life with their partner is not rated very highly. We base our sex life on chemistry, which is very often in the first 6 months to 2 years of our relationship, and then over. And we never learn to be alchemists, to come into the bedroom and really learn how to create the passion, how to create the closeness.
What about
once the chemistry, once the undesirous leaves us?
Okay.
And this is especially true for people as they get past their 40s, where men start to notice a little less obsession, a little less in the way of volunteer erections. And as we get still older, that chemistry, that desire, that passion that is so big for us when we're in our teens or early 20s start to fade, and we have nothing to fall back on. So we have a relationship often where I love you, but I'm not in love with you the way I was. And that's something that can be created or recreated if one has an understanding of sexual energy.
Now I have some questions. First of all, what do you recommend? You don't have to give me the details, but do you recommend nutrition and supplementation to help people maintain that sexual energy?
Well, there are certain foods that are going to create more energy. If you're talking about as people get a little bit older, you take a look back 5 years now, and things weren't so different now, weren't so different then, except now we have chemicals like these other products they've come up with, and they've made it a dysfunction because they simply can't say, hey, your energy's going to flag when you get a little bit older, and here's a chemical way to increase the circulation into your genitals.
Well, there's nutrition that can do that, and there are supplements that are able to do that. And,
absolutely, and there's some wonderful products that capsulize a lot of them. It's not something that's recent. The Chinese and the Indians studied these things. There are mushrooms, for instance, which are legal, that can greatly increase the circulation to the genitals. But, it's not just getting an erection that helps you as a man, or feeling the circulation in your genitals as a woman, that will make you a great lover. A man needs to have a certain amount of stamina. He needs to have the energy that says, yeah, I feel like it. It's not just something in his genitals, it's a body vitality.
Well, I do think that these supplements, Charles, I do think that a lot of these supplements actually work more holistically and create much more of a stamina and an interest, more desire, as well as more physical energy running through genitals.
Yes.
So it is an opportunity.
You have the energy and you still don't know how to please a woman. You still don't know the difference between touching her genitals with a yin type of energy or a yang type of energy. So you've got the desire. What if she doesn't have the desire? Which is often the situation with men and women. The man feels like it, the woman doesn't. Or the woman suddenly feels like it, and the man is intimidated because he's not feeling it in his loins. So we need to learn the skills. It's not just a matter of I feel the desire, or I want to, or I have the energy to. It's how do I get my partner interested when they're not?
I think that's a big story that is very important, is creating desire in the other person.
Yes, and for women, desire doesn't always come by a flood of passion in her loins, but it often comes for her by a feeling close and intimate. That's the gateway to opening up a woman's sexual center, is connecting with her emotionally, connecting with her through communication, and so subtly activating her sexual energy that she thinks it's her idea to make love, rather than reaching down and stroking her clitoris and hoping that she'll let you.
That sounds like a good strategy. I mean, the first one. So how does this jive with these spiritual ashrams that tell everybody not to have sex? And I don't mean the fundamentalist religions that are doing it more out of that it's sin and all that kind of stuff. But
That's
once,
an excellent question.
and I once, by the way, I once studied meditation with a teacher who said, if you're meditating a lot and you're building your spiritual energy and you have an orgasm, it just takes it all away. So,
well, I'm a yoga student since 1966. I'm living the seventh decade of my life, and yoga's been a part of it for more than half of my life, well more than half of my life. And when I was a young man, I was told by my swamis, celibacy, brahmacharya, was the only way for a spiritual student to get ahead in his spiritual path. And that's based on the understanding that sexual energy is the fuel that helps foster enlightenment. It's the fuel that raises one's consciousness. Now, of the hundreds of schools of yoga that came out of India or are in India, there was only one of them, and that was Tantra Yoga, which is what I am involved in teaching at my source school of Tantra Yoga. The understanding was that if men and women played with this energy, sexual energy, in a tantric way, you come away from the sharing with more of this energy. After all, there had to be a yoga for people not living in the ashram or the cave, who were going to propagate children, so there would be a spiritual population to follow in the generations ahead. So there they took a look at the energy. How can we share this energy and instead of spending it and losing it, actually create more of it? And that's why Tantra is so handy for people that are on a spiritual path but are not celibate and not wanting to be celibate. To have this energy, which is creative energy as well as spiritual energy and is vital energy, which of us don't need more vitality and creativity in our lives?
Sure.
And that's why Tantra is so broadly accepted now. When I started yoga in New York in 1966, I looked in the yellow pages, and there was Dannon yogurt. There were no yoga schools. And now yoga has blossomed so much. In the same way, Tantra now has blossomed in the last 20 years or so, where there are more and more teachers fulfilling a need, not just for people on a spiritual path, but simply for people who want to have better sex and better relationship. And if they enter the door of Tantra, hey, I just want to have better orgasms and better sex, there's no way they don't also discover, oh my God, this is a spiritual practice. Because, oh my God, or God, 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 or Jesus, Jesus, Jesus is the most cried out expression when one is having a powerful orgasm.
That's interesting. So, what are you teaching in your workshops? That what is the emphasis? Does it cover the full spectrum? Do you focus on specific things? You have workshops about specific areas of this?
Well, we have workshops on different levels. We're here. We've been here in New York the last couple of weeks doing publicity leading up to a seminar this coming weekend that we're holding in New York City. And it is a beginning workshop for people that have had little or no Tantra, and it's a complete introduction covering things of a physical nature, how to touch better, how to kiss better, how to move in new ways, sexual techniques that nobody has taught you that thankfully have survived the countless generations and made it from India to America. We teach the understandings of how to deepen intimacy, how to make sex a meditation. One needs to learn to quiet one's thinking intellectual brain when one is going to make love and activate the experiential feeling side of the brain where all mystical experience happens. And love is a mystical experience. So we teach both the techniques of red Tantra, which are couple practices, and white Tantra, which are solo practices having to do with one's inner energies, one's inner yin and yang or male-female energy. People leave there shaking their head, oh my God, I had no idea there was so much. And we get about 80% of the people who take our course realizing, I want to learn more of this. And we do have workshops of an intermediate and advanced nature that we hold all around the U.S. and at our school in Hawaii.
I would imagine Hawaii is a great place for feeling better.
Well, there you are on vacation where you're only in class 4 hours a day and the ocean is across the street and there are volcanic baths and steam vents to do natural steam baths in, and it is paradise. So couples that come to those seminars deeply fall in love. And what better place to meet conscious singles than, of course, on conscious sexuality.
What island are you on?
We hold seminars both on Maui and on the big island of Hawaii. And for your listeners who are interested, they can take a look at our website, sourcetantra.com, SOURCE, and Tantra is TANTRA.
Last year I was on both islands, and they sure are beautiful, and I can understand what you're saying about it. So in New York, where is the workshop going to be?
The workshop is going to be held at the Center Point Yoga Studio, which is down on Lafayette Street. And anyone who's interested can go to newrealities.com. Alan Steinfeld, who is a bit of a radio personality and networker extraordinary. He's sponsoring the seminar, and it's New Realities at earthlink.net, and that will give you all of the information one might want.
Is there a phone number
about the seminar? You know, I'm just looking at his website here, and if you ask me again that later, I'm sure I'll be able to give it to you.
Or how about your own phone number? Are you willing to give that to people?
Yes, indeed. It is 1-888-6-TANTRA, and that will get you to our Hawaii office. But they're 6 hours earlier than here, so they won't be up and around for a while yet.
Okay. So now let's come back to sexuality and relationships. What about couples who really are wired differently, and perhaps there was sexual abuse in childhood, or not everybody is designed with the same desire, the same physical energy, and that can be very frustrating with couples if one person is just more interested. And I don't mean it in terms of gender. It can be, women and men can each have their own interest or not interest. You probably see a lot of that.
Well, we don't get a lot of same-sex couples. We often get...
I don't mean same-sex. I just mean it can be same-sex or it could be...
well, women and men
sexes.
are wired differently, but we aren't taught that. We each go into the arena of love with our own needs, both physical and emotional. And for many women, they go out into the arena of love leading with their heart, and they meet a bunch of men that are leading with their genitals, and each of them don't know how to open the locks that the other have with the keys that they have. So that's why Tantra is so wonderful. It gives some of the answers of how do you generate the energy when you're not feeling like it. We're sophisticated New Yorkers, and we have sex when we feel like it, providing we have a partner that feels like it at the same time. So Tantra recommends practices. If you do certain things, it will change how you feel. If you're closed down, if you're tired, if you got a headache, those are good reasons to not make love, but they're also symptomologies of you need to move your energy. So Tantra teaches practices on how to do that.
Right, but what I'm referring to are couples. Doesn't matter whether they're same sex or both sexes. It's really that some people are wired to be much more sexually interested, have a lot more desire in them. And some people really don't think sexually. It's not in their psyche, and they happen to be paired. And because I've done work with couples who just don't think sexually, and I ask them how their sex life is, and they say, it's great. We love sex. I say, well, how much do you have it? Well, maybe every couple months, 2-3 months. Well, how come you don't have it more often? Because you say you love it. Well, we just don't think about it very much. And yet they love it. So there are all these different ways that we're wired to relate to sex. And there are couples that have to kind of find their middle ground, and it can be frustrating to people who are hotter, have much more of an interest than their partner.
Well, they have much more an awareness of the energy. First of all, if I were a counselor, and I am a psychology-based counselor, I would ask them, when you first got together, did you have more of a drive? Were you making love once every 2 months then? And I bet you they'll say, no, when we first got together, we made love a lot.
Sure.
The next thing I'd ask them is how much energy they have in their life. Most of us work at least 8 hours a day. If we live in New York City, there's undoubtedly a commute going on. How much vitality do they have? Would they like to have more sexual energy? When they make sex, how long does it last? Are they orgasm-based? Do they have a drive, let's just relieve this energy and get rid of it? Or would they like to use this energy so that it revitalizes them on every level of their being? So they have energy, not just more energy for sex, but they have more creativity, they have more vitality, they have more passion to raise their kids. Sexual energy is for all of those things. Passion is not just for the bedroom. If one is passionate in one's life, one's entire life becomes better.
Well, we're equating passion only with sexuality. There are a lot of people who live very passionate lives, and sex really doesn't enter into it that much. So what about,
yes.
and there might be partners that feel that way.
Passion is an energy, and do we want to have more of it? Because passion can be used to, if we're a musician, write new music. If we're a painter, be inspired to have a painting. If we're a business person, to come up with a new and unique concept or idea or solution to a problem. It's all creative energy. And sexual energy is a gateway for that. Now, just because two people come into or have a relationship and they're noticing the difference, you like to make love and I don't, that's one of the reasons 52.8% of relationships end in divorce. The biggest thing that triggers divorce is something about sexual energy. somebody's cheating, somebody's not satisfied, someone's not feeling loved. So here's an art form that says, yes, you can increase love. Yes, you can increase sexual energy. Yes, you can go beyond simple pleasure and relief in sexual sharing. You know, people feel relieved now the energy's out of the way, and they can go into more ecstatic states. You know, for many people, they don't understand what's the big deal about sex. It's, but they've never experienced ecstatic levels of it. And that's why this art form that goes back thousands of years, where they studied sex as a cultured art form that everybody wants to get better at, is so valuable for us today, because it makes couples closer. If we don't have this in our lives, couples tend to not be connected on very important levels. Sex itself is genital-based. Tantric sexuality, tantric relating, is a relationship based on intellectual harmony, spiritual harmony, energetic harmony, love harmony, as well as harmony on the lower levels of passion and even just survival issues.
Well, this sounds like a great opportunity for people in New York this weekend to expand their horizons, and for couples to come together and enhance their relationships, and single people to enjoy their own sexuality and meet other people who are potential partners even. So
absolutely, and we're the only seminar that I know of that offers a money-back guarantee. That's how successful we are.
Wow!
And we do have free introductory talks that we're doing. We're doing one in Freeport, Long Island, at the Presbyterian Church there on Wednesday, and Thursday at East West Books down near Union Square, 78 Fifth Avenue.
That's great. So, Charles, this has been wonderful to talk with you and hear your views and understandings, and it sounds like you've been around the block about 30 times. So thank you so much for contributing.
Thank you so much, Peter. You're a wonderful, conscious interviewer. It's been fun being with you.
Well, thank you, and I wish you the best of luck, and I hope you get a big crowd this weekend.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Aloha.
Aloha. And this is Peter Roth, your host of Energy Stew. I can be reached at Heartriver, HeartRiver.org, or you can reach me at 212-222-7748. Now, there's our music. We're fading away until next week. So thank you for joining us.